When people talk about retail real estate, they usually talk about what's dying. The mall's dying, the big box is too risky, the consumer stretched. The internet changed everything. And to be fair, there's truth in some of that. There are retailers closing stores. There are old formats that do not work the way they used to. There are shopping centers that were built for a version of America that no longer exists. But if you only look at the closures, you miss the other side of the story. Because while some retailers, they're shrinking or consolidating or disappearing, others, they're doing the opposite. They're opening stores, they're entering new markets, they're following population shifts and consumer behavior, unmet demand. And one of the clearest examples of that right now is Aldi. In 2025, Aldi announced plans to open up more than 225 new stores, the most it had ever opened up in 1 year in its nearly 50-year U.S. history. The company also said it would convert approximately 220 southeastern grocers, those locations, to the Aldi format through 27. And then in 2026, Aldi announced plans to open up more than 180 stores across 31 states, move closer to nearly 2,800 stores by the end of the year, and continue towards a goal of 3,200 stores by the end of 28. Aldi also said it's continuing a $9 billion U.S. investment through 28 to scale operations, including new distribution centers. So the obvious question is why? Why is Aldi expanding while so many other retailers are trying to get smaller? And for us as retail real estate investors, there's an even better question. What does Aldi understand about America that the broader investment market might be missing? Because Aldi's not just expanding in the obvious places. It's not only chasing the biggest cities, the highest income zip codes, or the flashiest retail corridors. Aldi's built for a different kind of opportunity, a more practical opportunity, a more disciplined opportunity, and in many ways, a hometown America opportunity. This video is about why Aldi's growth matters, what it teaches us about consumer demand, and why value grocery may be one of the strongest signals investors can watch in secondary and tertiary markets. Because sometimes the best way to understand where retail real estate is going is not to start with a spreadsheet. Sometimes you start with a grocery cart. To understand why Aldi is expanding today, we have to go backwards. Aldi didn't appear out of nowhere. The story starts in Germany with a small food store opened by the Albrecht family. According to Aldi, the first store opened in Germany in 1913. And over time, that family grocery business evolved into something much bigger, a new kind of discount grocery model. Aldi says the Albrecht family founded the world's first discount grocery store in Germany in 1961, built around a simple idea. Great quality should come with everyday low prices. That idea sounds obvious now, but at the time, it was a very different way to think about grocery. Instead of building a supermarket around endless choice, Aldi built its model around simplicity and fewer products, lower operating costs, private label goods, simple merchandising, efficient stores, a shopping experience designed to remove anything that did not need to be there. And that philosophy became the foundation of the company. Aldi's own explanation of its model is very straightforward. If something's not necessary, don't do it. That shows up in the cart system, the reusable bags, the focus on exclusive brands, the smaller stores, the simpler shopping experience. That's important because Aldi's history is not just a grocery history, it's a history of discipline, a history of stripping the retail model down to what the customer actually values. And eventually, that model came to the United States. In 1976, Aldi opened its first U.S. store in Iowa. That feels very fitting for this conversation about hometown America, because from the beginning, Aldi's U.S. story was not just about chasing the biggest or flashiest markets. It was about serving practical customers with practical needs. It was about value, efficiency, everyday grocery demand. And for decades, Aldi kept building on that idea. At first, Aldi may have seemed unusual to American shoppers. You put a quarter in the cart, you bag your own groceries. You do not see 10 versions of the same product You see a smaller store, a lot of private labels, fewer frills. But over time, what looked unusual started to look smart, because every one of those choices connects back to the same strategy. Lower the cost to operate, simplify the shopping trip, pass value back to the customer. And Aldi was built for that customer long before the current inflation cycle made value shopping a national conversation. That's why Aldi's modern expansion is not just a growth story, it's a payoff of a model that's been refined for decades. As of 2026, Aldi says it has grown to more than 2,400 stores across 38 states, with more than 45,000 employees. The company also says it plans to operate nearly 3,200 stores nationwide by the end of 28. So when we see Aldi opening stores today, especially in secondary and tertiary markets, we should not see it as a retail experimenting. We should see it as a retailer applying a proven model to the places where that model makes sense. Places where customers care about value. Places where grocery demand is essential. Places where a smaller, efficient footprint can work. Places where the trade area may be stronger than the population numbers suggest. Places where shoppers may have been driving out of town for better prices or better options or more efficient grocery trips. That's the bridge from Aldi's history to its rise. The same ideas that shaped Aldi in Germany: simplicity, efficiency, value, discipline. They're the same ideas helping it grow across America today. And that brings us to the bigger retail real estate lesson, because Aldi's rise is not just about groceries. It's about where the American consumer is going. It's about what kinds of retail models still work. And it's about why hometown markets may be more attractive than many investors realize. So when people say retail's dying, Aldi forces us to ask a better question. Is retail dying, or is retail being reshuffled toward the formats that actually match how people live, shop, and spend today? The easy headline is that retail's struggling. And again, parts of retail are struggling, but the mistake is assuming that all retail is moving in the same direction. It's not. Retail's not dying. Retail's being reshuffled. Demand is moving from weaker formats to stronger ones, from optional spending to essential spending, from loaded footprints to efficient footprints, from generic locations to high convenience, high traffic, high frequency locations. And grocery sits right in the middle of that shift. CBRE noted in its 2025 retail outlook that economic uncertainty and high inflation have made consumers more budget conscious, often prioritizing essential goods, which account for approximately 65% of consumer spending. CBRE also said that shift increases retailer interest in grocery-anchored centers, which is among the best performing retail property types. That's the real story. Consumers may pull back on certain categories. They may skip a new wardrobe. They may eat out less often. They may trade down from a premium brand to a value brand. But they still buy food. Grocery is not immune to competition or margin pressure, but it has something many other retail categories do not have. It has frequency. People come back again and again. And in retail real estate frequency, it's gold. A grocery store creates a habit. Habits create traffic. Traffic supports adjacent tenants. Adjacent tenants support rent. Rent supports asset value. That's why Aldi matters. Not just because it sells groceries, but because it sits at the intersection of essential demand, value-driven consumer behavior, and disciplined retail real estate strategy. Think about your own weekly routine. You may not go to the mall every week. You may not buy shoes every week. You may not go to a department store every week. But most households interact with grocery constantly. Maybe they do one big weekly trip. Maybe they make 3 smaller trips. Maybe they use pickup or delivery. Maybe they bounce between 2 or 3 stores looking for the best prices. But food is always in the rhythm of the household. The rhythm matters for real estate. CBRE reported that U.S. consumers spent more than $915 billion on groceries in 2025, up 3% from 24 and 21% since 20. CBRE also noted that shopper visits to grocery stores increased in 25. That's important because it pushes back against the idea that physical retail is irrelevant. Even with delivery, even with online grocery, even with curbside pickup, the grocery store is still a physical node in the community. It's where people build routines, and that routine spills over. A strong grocery anchor can help the coffee shop next door, the nail salon, the fast casual restaurant, the bank, the phone store, the gym. The entire center benefits from the fact that grocery brings people back repeatedly. CBRE and ICSC findings that grocery store anchored retail centers attract approximately 3 times as many customers annually as unanchored centers in comparable trade areas, translating to roughly 200% more foot traffic and allowing landlords to command 15 to 25% higher rents for adjacent inline spaces. Grocery is not just a tenant. Grocery is traffic infrastructure, and when the right grocery tenant enters an underserved market, it can validate demand that was already there but under-monetized. That's especially powerful in hometown markets because in a smaller market, one good anchor can change the entire retail map. Now, let's talk about Aldi specifically because Aldi is not a traditional American supermarket. It doesn't try to be everything to everyone. It's not trying to win by having the biggest store or the widest selection, the fanciest departments, or the most elaborate service offering. Aldi wins by doing less, better. Aldi emphasizes simplicity, value, exclusive brands, reusable bags, card deposits, and a streamlined shopping experience. That simplicity shows up everywhere. The store is smaller, the assortment's tighter, the shopping trip faster, the products are heavily private label, the display is simple, the customer bags their own groceries, the cart system reduces labor. The whole experience is built around the idea that every unnecessary cost eventually shows up in the price. So Aldi tries to remove the unnecessary cost. More than 90% of the products in Aldi stores are Aldi exclusive brands. That one detail explains a lot. Private label gives Aldi more control over pricing, packaging, supplier relationships, over how products show up on the shelf. And for the consumer, it turns the store into a treasure hunt and a trust exercise. The shopper is not necessarily choosing between 15 versions of the same item. They're choosing the Aldi version. That's a very different shopping psychology. It simplifies the trip. It reduces decision fatigue. It helps Aldi push value. And over time, if the customer trusts the brand, private label stops feeling like a compromise. It becomes the reason they go. Aldi is not just cheaper because it wants to be cheaper. It's cheaper because the model is designed around efficiency. The real estate footprint is smaller, the operations leaner, the assortment more focused, the shopping experience intentionally simple. That matters in hometown markets because a smaller, more efficient store does not need the same sales volume as a massive traditional supermarket. It can enter markets where demand is real, but perhaps not obvious enough for a 70,000 square foot conventional grocer. And that's one reason Aldi is such an important signal for retail real estate investors. It can unlock grocery demand in places where the old grocery model might not fit. Now, let's bring this back to hometown America. When we talk about secondary and tertiary markets, a lot of investors start with the wrong question. They ask, how many people live there? That matters, of course, but that isn't the whole story. The better question is, how does the trade area behave? Where do people shop today? How far are they driving? What categories are missing? Where's the traffic? Where's the growth? Where's the leakage? A town may have 20,000 or 40,000 people inside city limits, but the true grocery trade area may be much larger. It may pull from surrounding rural communities. It may have schools or hospitals, manufacturing, sports, tourism, lakes, or regional employers that bring people into town every day. That's why hometown retail is often misunderstood. The demand does not always show up neatly in a 1 mile or 3 mile radius. Sometimes a customer is 18 miles away. Sometimes a customer lives in a town with no grocery options and drives in once or twice a week. Aldi's paying attention to that kind of behavior, and its published retail real estate requirements tell you a lot about how disciplined the company is. Aldi says it looks for almost 22,000 square feet of store, at least 95 parking spots, 2.5 acres of land for purchase and development, end cap or inline space with at least 103 feet of frontage, a signalized full access intersection, dense trade area population within 3 miles, community or regional shopping districts with convenient access to population, grocery zoning, daily traffic counts above 20,000 vehicles per day. That's a checklist for retail demand, for visibility, access, parking, traffic, population, convenience, grocery use, co-tenancy potential. So when Aldi enters a hometown market, it's not just saying, we think people here want cheap groceries. It's saying, we believe this site can support repeat trips. That's the part investors should care about, because Aldi's validating the trade area. It's telling you there's enough daily life demand to support a high-frequency retail concept. Now, there's another reason Aldi is so relevant right now. The consumer, they're under pressure. Even households that are doing okay financially are more aware of price than they were a few years ago. People feel it at restaurants. They feel it in grocery aisles. They feel it in insurance, rent, home repairs, car payments, childcare. So the consumer starts adjusting. They don't stop spending completely. They trade down. They look for value. They become more selective. They might still buy groceries every week, but they change where they buy them. They might still want quantity, but they're less willing to pay for brand names if the private label option is good enough. CBRE noted that consumers are once again prioritizing the value offered by grocery stores, partly because restaurant pricing has increased by nearly 60% over the last 10 years, while grocery prices rose by 30%. When consumers are looking for grocery value, Aldi is built for that exact moment. This is where the Aldi story becomes bigger than discount grocery. It becomes a story about the American household, a family with kids, a retired couple on a fixed income, a young couple buying their first house, a teacher on the way home from school, a nurse leaving a shift, a construction worker picking up dinner, a parent trying to stretch the weekly grocery budget. Aldi's expansion is really a response to millions of small decisions like that. Decisions made at the kitchen table, decisions made in the car after work, decisions made while comparing receipts, decisions made by people who still need to feed their families, but want their dollar to go further. And that's why this story connects so well to hometown America. In many secondary and tertiary markets, the consumer may be practical, value conscious, routine driven. They're not looking for retail to impress them. They're looking for retail to serve them. It's a very different lens, and it's one investors should take seriously. One of the most important concepts in hometown retail is leakage. Retail leakage is what happens when local spending leaves the market. People live in one town, but they drive somewhere else to shop. Maybe they drive 30 minutes for groceries. Maybe they go to the regional hub for restaurants, pet supplies, sporting goods, home improvement. That money exists. It's just not being captured locally. And in a lot of hometown markets, grocery leakage can be very real. Maybe the town has a local grocer, but prices are high. Maybe there's a Walmart, but consumers want another option. Maybe the existing grocery stores are outdated. Maybe there is no value grocer. Maybe the customer base has grown, but the retail supply has not caught up. When Aldi enters a market like that, it can recapture spending that was already happening. It does not have to create the need. The need already exists. It just gives the customer a new reason to stay local. In real estate, we often talk about demand as if it has to be created from scratch. But some of the best retail opportunities are about finding demand that's already there and giving it a better place to go. That's the leakage story. And it's one of the reasons Aldi can be so meaningful in smaller markets. If families were driving to the next town over for value groceries, Aldi can bring that trip back. And once those trips stay local, the surrounding real estate can benefit. The customer who used to leave town now stops at Aldi. Then maybe they get coffee. They pick up dinner, stop at the pharmacy. Maybe they fill up the car. That's why grocery leakage matters. It's not just about grocery sales. It's about keeping the customer in the corridor. And once a customer is in the corridor, the rest of the retail ecosystem has a chance to capture that trip. So, how should you use Aldi as a framework? Here's the way I would think about it. First, ask whether the market's value conscious. It means households are practical. It means the market may respond well to essential, affordable, high-frequency retail. Second, ask whether there's grocery leakage. Are people leaving town for better prices or better options? Are they driving to the next regional hub? Are local Facebook groups constantly asking for better grocery, restaurant, or national brand? Third, study the corridor. Where's the Walmart? Where's the school traffic? Where's the hospital? Where are the hotels? Where's the highway exit? Where's the new house? Fourth, look at the supply. Is a retail stock modern or is it outdated? Are there good pads available? Are there older centers that could be re-tenanted? Fifth, ask who the exit buyer is. That's especially important in smaller markets. A good deal is not only about the going in yield, it's about who wants to buy the asset from you later. A grocery anchored or grocery adjacent property may appeal to a wider pool of buyers than a generic unanchored strip center. But market size, tenant quality, lease term, rent level, and replacement demand still matter. This is how Aldi becomes more than a grocery story. It becomes a tool, a way to read the market, a way to identify demand, a way to understand where retail gravity is forming. Now, it's important to say this clearly. Aldi is a strong signal, but it's not a guarantee. A market can have Aldi and still have bad real estate. A center near Aldi can still be overpriced. A corridor can still be too competitive. A tenant can still leave. That's one of the biggest risks in hometown retail. If a tenant leaves in Dallas, Houston, Nashville, Atlanta, Phoenix, there may be a deep pool of replacement. If a tenant leaves in a tertiary market, the pool of replacements may be smaller. That doesn't mean you avoid the market, it means you underwrite the downside. The best investors are optimistic about demand, but disciplined about basis. They understand the story, but they still underwrite the spreadsheet. And that's exactly how we should think about hometown market. The opportunity is real, but it's not automatic. So what does Aldi really teach us? It teaches us that the future of retail is not just about luxury districts or top-tier suburbs or trophy urban locations. It's also about practical, essential, everyday retail in places that many investors do not spend enough time studying. It teaches us that the customer still matters, the customer who wants groceries at a better price, the customer who does not want to drive 40 minutes, the customer who lives in a town that may look small on a map, but functions as a regional hub, the customer who has been underserved by traditional retail development. That's the hometown America thesis. These markets are not always obvious. They're not always glamorous, but they can have real demand. They can have national retailers quietly validating the market before investors fully catch on. And Aldi is one of the clearest examples of that. When Aldi enters a market, it's telling you something. It's telling you there's enough demand for value grocery. It's telling you the site has enough traffic and access. It's telling you the customer is worth serving. It's telling you the trade area may be stronger than outsiders realize. But the real investor does not stop there. The real investor asks, what else does this market need? What other tenants follow this customer? Where's the leakage? Where's the next pad? Where's the outdated center that can be repositioned? That's the opportunity, not just following Aldi, understanding why Aldi showed up. Aldi isn't winning because it's flashy. It's winning because it's simple and disciplined. It's winning because it can serve customers in markets that other retailers may underestimate. And for retail real estate investors, that matters because the best opportunities are not always in the biggest markets. Sometimes they're in the markets where demand was hiding in plain sight. So the next time you pass an Aldi in a secondary or tertiary market, don't just see a discount grocery store. See the trade area. See the leakage being recaptured. See the adjacent tenants. See the older centers that may be repositioned. See the retailer that understood the market before the capital did. Because Aldi is not just expanding while other retailers are closing stores. Aldi is showing us what kind of retail still works, and maybe more importantly, where it works.